A fireman goes out and does their job, and there's certain calls that will forever be in their memory. I mean, I'll never forget that fire, ever.
We both knew this house well. It was filled with happy moments and cherished memories.
When I found out that it was a friend that did it, I mean, that was really hard. It was like, how can you do that?
It's still hard for me to make sense of it all. But envy and greed, they can burn a friendship up from the inside.
Lula and Linda had lived next door to each other probably for 10, 15 years.
We were closer than sisters, living next door, raising our families side by side. I learned early on that with hard work and an education, anything is possible.
Her father was in the financial business, and she pretty much followed in his footsteps.
She decided to have an accounting degree, and she did taxes.
Linda wasn't fancy, even though she could afford to be. As for me, I was anything but fancy.
Lula, she was my oldest sister. We was a happy family. We didn't have a whole lot, but we was happy.
By the time I was 12 years old, I'd picked out the boy I was gonna marry. And I wouldn't let anything stand in my way.
Instead of going to college, she decided to marry and have a family and followed him. They had 2 children, a boy and a girl. Lula's husband was a construction worker, and of course he moved around a good bit.
Horn Lake was really a small town. Neighbors knew neighbors and actually talked to people. People weren't in a hurry to go places.
All our saving and planning, it paid off. It wasn't no dream house, but it was ours. I was new to town, and Linda was a bit of a black sheep. Neither one of us really fit in.
Lula's husband started spending more time away from home. He was seeing other women, and he eventually did leave her for another lady to raise the 2 children on her own.
I don't beat around the bush, especially with my best friend. So I told Lula after her husband left, honey, it's time to get a job.
Lula wanted to be more involved with the community, so she went to EMT school and became an EMT.
I was happy for Lula, but I had some big news to share with her, and I wasn't sure how she'd take it.
Linda decided that she wanted a bigger house, and they built a nice big house, which was about probably 5 or 10 minutes away.
They had what they called a little cleaning business at the time.
L Home Health Care. That's what we called it. Lula was so good at cleaning my house, we figured to make some money on top of our day jobs.
We drew up a contract and everything to make it official. It covered the basics, even what would happen if, heaven forbid, one of us died.
They had a life insurance policy. That's the kind of thing they did to protect the other one in the business if something happened to one of them.
Everyone said Lula did the hard part. But when someone complained or there were bills to pay, then it was my problem. But I had someone to help out around the house.
Wayne Dunn was a friend of Linda Leadham's daughters. Wayne would work for Linda from time to time. She would give him an opportunity to do odd jobs, run errands and things like that, and she would give him money in return for doing that.
And Lula had met him because he'd been over at Lula's house one time with Linda.
He would come over to Linda's house. He would go to Lula's house. He would just hung around the girls. If you really look at the 2 families, Wayne seemed to be out of place.
One day, Lula came over across the yard. The back door was open, and she came in, and she said, I got something to tell you. It's going to be okay. I found a lump and went and got it checked out. They're going to do surgery.
Sometimes I wondered what I'd done to deserve a friend like Linda. She even helped me pay the bills when I got too sick to work. I didn't know how I'd ever repay her.
Just like, a lot of other folks, she was just living paycheck to paycheck.
Chemo made her very sick. She had mentioned to Linda that she knew her health was bad and that she didn't want to die from the cancer. And then I think it got to be just too much.
It got so bad that I feared Lula might do something drastic.
That's when I started making plans for my family's future.
Lula wanted Linda to be the one to take care of the kids, had made her power of attorney if anything had ever happened, and everybody knew that. She never hid that.
If you're fighting cancer like I was, it can be hard to qualify for extra life insurance. But Linda found a way around that.
Linda actually posed as Lula when the insurance physicals were done. When the nurses that conduct the insurance physicals showed up at Linda's house, they thought they were doing a physical on Lula Young when in fact it was Linda Leadham.
And then Lula got a piece of news that changed everything.
There was a doctor's appointment earlier in December in which the doctor told her that the cancer had not gotten worse. It was a positive sign. Wayne kind of latched on to the girls and was able to develop a friendship to the extent with them that he became more of, if you want to call it, a member of the family. On the night of the fire, Lula was at home, and Wayne Dunn came to visit with her. They talked, they visited. Lula went to bed. Linda was at home, and she also went to bed.
When the call for a house fire went out that morning, Lula's friends at the fire department rushed to respond.
I knew that it was Lula Young's house.
When I got there, I found out they hadn't gotten her out and that she had died in the fire.
It had all started back in the darkest days of my illness.
When Lula talked to her about becoming the beneficiary of the small policy that she had, Linda saw an opportunity to benefit from her friend's death. Linda was able to obtain insurance policies that paid her and her family. Lula was the insured. Linda was the beneficiary. On one of the policies, if it was deemed to be an accident that she died in, then she would have received $1 million. Once the insurance policies were obtained, Linda began to pay $1,000 a month in premiums. And she was basically sitting back waiting on Lula to die.
Linda didn't like to get her hands dirty, but she knew who could help her.
Wayne was a crack addict at the time, and Linda was providing him with money. He needed money, and he did not have much of a conscience. Linda had approached him, asking him to set this fire to make it look like an accident, and that he would get paid a sum of money by Linda to do this.
Linda had bought a grill that year as a Christmas present and had asked Lula if it was okay to store it at her house so nobody would find it at her house. And it was a grill with a propane tank.
Wayne went over to Lula's house. They chatted for a little while. She told him he was welcome to watch TV, but she was going to bed. Wayne went out and got the space heater out of the car, found the propane tank where Linda had left it filled. He went in, put the tank in the middle of the living room, opened it up, put the space heater on the side, plugged it in, cut it on high, and put a piece of newspaper over the space heater and left. All of the pieces of the puzzle came together when a former employer of Wayne Dunn told that Dunn had confessed to him that he had burned an old lady up in a house back in December of '94. Wayne Dunn pled guilty to murder, and he is currently housed at the Mississippi State Penitentiary at Parchman. Linda was found guilty of conspiracy and murder. She's at the Central Mississippi Correctional Facility in Pearl, Mississippi. Linda will die in prison.